Discover the incredible nanny who transformed the lives of a millionaire CEO's twins in just 1 week. Sarah's heart raced as she pulled into the driveway of the Hastings palatial home, her breath coming in sharp bursts. The manicured lawns glistened with precision, an unspoken challenge that seemed to mock her frayed nerves. She had dreamt of this moment: immense pay, a stepping stone out of poverty, a lifeline for her children. But as the pristine facade loomed before her, self-doubt twisted in her gut. Did she belong here? The question nagged her as she opened the door to the chaotic world behind those doors. The twins, Oliver and Lily, were hyperactive whirlwinds, their giggles echoing through the marble halls. Mark Hastings, their father, barely glanced in their direction, his constant phone calls drowning out their pleas for attention. Flashes of wealth surrounded Sarah: gleaming chandeliers, opulent furniture, but none of it mattered next to the children's longing for love that felt like a foreign language. With every tantrum she navigated and every extravagant expectation placed upon her, shadows of her past flickered in her mind. The tension in her shoulders ached as she fought to keep up. A few days in, Sarah caught her reflection in the powder room mirror, the tired lines etched around her eyes deepening under the weight of another day spent balancing chaos with care. Who was this woman, she questioned, trapped between the demands of her job and the clamor of her own needs? Flickers of dreams danced just out of reach, aspirations swallowed by survival. It was a cruel irony, being the voice of reason for these children while feeling so lost herself. Amidst the extravagant dinners filled with careless chatter, the twins thrived on her attention. Yet, as Sarah immersed herself in their world, the pressure mounted. An unexpected scandal erupted, threatening to rip the Hastings family from the fabric of their public persona. Mark's desperate quest for success spiraled into an emergency that would not only jeopardize his career but fracture the family Sarah had just begun to bond with. The twins' innocent faces haunted her. They needed someone to fight for them. Where was the loyalty she had always promised herself they would receive? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The stakes escalated as the board meeting loomed. Sarah could feel her resolve crumbling under the weight of uncertainty. Loyalty battled against ambition inside her. Would her desire to align herself with this dysfunctional family cost her the fragile bond she had built? She had never imagined stepping beyond the boundaries of a nanny's role, but she recognized a flicker of her own potential in the chaos. Would they trust her to lead them through the storm? The clock ticked relentlessly, the urgency amplifying with each beat. A decision loomed, and Sarah teetered at the edge of choice, wondering if her fight for them would ultimately yield her a chance at a better life or push them all into despair. The depth of her dilemma tightened in her chest. Confronted with her own fears, she felt the ground shift beneath her as she prepared to take a leap into the unknown. The morning sun filtered through the expansive windows, illuminating the chaos that had now become Sarah's daily life. The twins, full of energy and life, carried on their spirited routines as Sarah struggled to find the balance between their whims and the looming professional crisis enveloping their father. She had officially stepped into a role beyond her initial expectations, feeling compelled to carve out a space where love could flourish amidst the tension. As she guided Oliver and Lily through their morning, a thought flitted across Sarah's mind: what if she could actually help? More than just providing care, perhaps she could offer guidance that this family desperately needed. With every explosion of laughter from the twins, a fraction of her self-doubt began to dissolve, replaced by a burgeoning confidence that surprised even her. The sound of the twins' laughter echoed in her mind, contrasting sharply with the distant tension vibrating from Mark's office, where hushed conversations and urgent whispers blended into an uncomfortable score. Sarah felt a surge of determination. The children's innocence sparked a sense of resolve in her chest. She had nothing to lose by rallying behind them, especially if it meant restoring a semblance of normalcy. In an unexpected moment of clarity, she gathered her courage and approached Mark's study. The echoes of their chaotic laughter dissipated as she knocked gently, the heavy door creaking open to reveal him hunched over his desk, brow furrowed in distress. His overwhelmed state mirrored her own. It was strange to see the renowned CEO so vulnerable. "Mark, can we talk?" The words slipped out before she could second-guess herself. His eyes flickered up, surprise mingling with fatigue. "I don't think there's much to discuss right now, Sarah. I barely have time to breathe." "But this isn't just about you," she pressed, surprising herself with the sharpness of her tone. "It's about the twins. They need stability, and you need to think clearly." Mark's gaze softened at the mention of his children, the weight of his responsibilities momentarily lifting. "What do you suggest?" As she spoke, Sarah felt a transformation within her. Ideas began to bubble up, ways to incorporate fun learning activities into their day, to infuse joy into the chaos. She could help the twins channel their energy productively, creating an environment where laughter could coexist with worry. With every word she articulated, she peeled back layers of her own capabilities, unearthing parts of herself that had long been dormant. When she finished laying out her plan for the twins, Mark leaned back in his chair, his expression shifting from skepticism to contemplation. "That might actually work. If you're willing to take charge." His words left a tingling warmth in her chest. It was an acknowledgement she had craved, and suddenly she understood that this wasn't just a job, it was an opportunity to revamp her identity. But the stakes rose higher as her voice trembled inside her, the small voice that urged caution and self-preservation. What if things didn't go as planned? Realizing what was at stake, the twins' happiness, Mark's career, and her own sense of worth, Sarah felt the ground beneath her shift once more. Embracing the challenge ahead ignited a fire inside her, but she needed to tread carefully. Would she really risk the fragile hope she had nurtured just to be heard? The moment hung heavy with possibilities. With her plan in motion, she could either solidify her role or sabotage it entirely. As tension crackled in the air, she made a choice sparked by determination, recognizing the need to inspire not just the children, but herself. But now, with everything set into motion, a new realization loomed ahead like a shadow. What would be the consequences of standing up, and could she manage to hold on to the family and herself during the storm that was bound to follow? With a renewed sense of purpose swirling in her mind, Sarah found herself at a crossroads. The twins needed her, and Mark's tentative trust in her capabilities opened an unexpected door. A fire ignited within her, urging her forward. The idea of making a genuine difference overshadowed every trace of her earlier hesitations. Yet, the magnitude of her decisions weighed heavily on her conscience. Her first task was to create a structured routine that blended learning with play, ensuring the twins found stability in their days. Excitement coursed through her veins as blueprints of activities and schedules began to take shape in her mind. She envisioned afternoons filled with art projects, mini science experiments, and impromptu adventures in the backyard, all mirroring a normal childhood, albeit amidst the backdrop of their complex family dynamics. As she jotted down plans during evening hours, the sharp pencil scratching against the paper punctuated the silence of the house. In those moments, Sarah felt fortified, enacting a small revolution in her life. With each written idea, she was strengthening not just the twins' world but her own emerging identity. But at the back of her mind lingered doubt, snaking through her positivity. What would happen if the children resisted her initiatives? How would she handle a break in this fragile facade she was constructing? The following morning, she gathered Oliver and Lily around the kitchen table, swirling her enthusiasm like a beacon. "I have something exciting to share," she announced as she spread out colored paper, scissors, and various art supplies. The twins' eyes widened, uncertainty mingling with curiosity. "What are we doing?" Oliver asked, inching closer. Sarah beamed, matching their energy. "We're going to create our own storybooks about adventures we want to have." A moment of silence followed, and then Lily's face lit up. "Can we make it about dragons?" The trepidation dissipated as the children engaged, allowing Sarah's heart to swell with pride. But as they crafted their narratives, imagining daring rescues and whimsical kingdoms, her mind drifted back to Mark. The idea of them collaborating to give the twins the life they deserved gnawed at her throughout their crafting session. She wondered whether she was capable enough to keep momentum moving forward in both their lives and her own. Should she approach Mark once more to discuss their progress, or wait for him to acknowledge her efforts? By lunchtime, Sarah decided that waiting wasn't an option. She strode into Mark's office with a clipboard in hand, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. Courage propelled her forward, even as the anxiety of his potential disapproval threatened to unravel her spirited confidence. "Mark, can I share what we began today?" she asked, the clipboard trembling slightly in her grasp. That he looked up, his expression skeptical but intrigued as he gestured for her to continue. She unveiled their storybooks, filled with colorful drawings. The twins are embracing creativity. They're excited about their stories, and I truly believe this can be the foundation for their routine moving forward. Mark leaned in, scanning the pages. A glimmer of admiration sparked in his eyes, replacing his earlier fatigue. "You're really putting in the effort, aren't you?" "I am," she replied, emboldened. "But I need your support too. They need to see us working together, believing in this change." As she spoke, Sarah's resolve crystallized. This was no longer just about the twins or even about managing a chaotic household, it was about cultivating a team, a family dynamic that comforted them all. But in that moment of connection, something deeper tugged at her thoughts. What if Mark couldn't fully commit to this shared vision? Or worse, what if the pressures of his career overshadowed their budding efforts? The tension in her chest tightened again, this struggle for balance seemingly eternal. Would she manage to protect their shared hopes against the relentless tide of external pressures? As they both stood amidst the whirlwind of creativity and silence of unspoken fears, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that their next move would define not only her role but also their collective future. Would she be able to navigate the storm ahead, or would it sweep away everything she had worked so hard to create? The next few days unfolded with a rhythm that combined a sense of urgency and excitement. Sarah busied herself implementing the routines she had envisioned, and in the process, she began to carve out a niche for herself in the twins' lives. Mornings were filled with math games that involved counting colorful beads, while afternoons shifted into storytelling workshops under the shade of the big oak tree in the backyard, yet, her early victories were often punctuated by wavering moments of doubt. Each time one of the twins hesitated or grimaced at a suggested activity, her heart raced with an unshakable anxiety. Was this truly the right path? What if her efforts crumbled under the weight of their discomfort? One afternoon, during a spontaneous excursion to a local park, a disheartening incident hit hard. As they approached the swings, Lily voiced her disdain for the new game Sarah had planned. "I don't want to play that. It sounds boring." Sarah felt her stomach churn. For an instant, she was thrown into a tempest of insecurity. "I thought it could be fun," she replied carefully, masking an urge to retreat. In that moment, a visceral realization struck her: her emotional turmoil could not overshadow the impact she wanted to have on the twins. "Why don't we try it?" Oliver chimed in, attempting to bridge the gap between his sister's hesitance and Sarah's aspirations. Sarah felt a stirring within her, a growing determination. "Maybe we can twist it into something you both enjoy," she proposed. They reshaped the game on the fly, injecting elements that resonated with their interests, and soon laughter erupted. The shift was subtle, yet profound. With each optimistic adjustment to her plans, Sarah grew stronger. Each successful moment carved a new layer into her identity, enhancing her confidence. But as her bond with the twins deepened, so did another realization. Mark remained a silent observer, the bridge to their shared future growing ever more distant. Sarah began to question if she could truly lead them without his involvement. One evening, Sarah brought her concerns to the forefront as they sat together over pasta. "Mark, I think we need to talk about the routines I've started with the kids. It's vital they see us united, that they know they can rely on both of us." Her words hung in the air, an unyielding challenge against the confines of their separate realities. That he nodded slowly, his brow furrowed in thought. "I see that they're doing well. Really, I just didn't think it was my place to step in. I've relied on you more than I expected." His admission opened a door she didn't know existed. But what if we design the next phase together? They need to see both of us committing to this change. With every carefully chosen word, Sarah felt a surge of potential coursing through her. Somehow, revealing her vulnerability drew Mark closer rather than pulling him away. Yet there was a trepidation lurking beneath their budding cooperation. How firm was his commitment to this process? The prospect of combining their ideas excited Sarah. She could visualize a cohesive structure to their daily lives, one where Mark and she were a united front, yet it also filled her with apprehension. Would he find his footing in this new role? Could they truly become a family that relied on each other? As they delved deeper into planning their collaborative approach, subtle shifts in Mark's demeanor hinted at possibilities she dared not fully embrace. Was he finally beginning to invest himself emotionally, or would his career demands yank him right back into the shadows? The anticipation of upcoming challenges loomed, each mixed with an exhilarating prospect of potential. Sarah's pulse quickened at the thought. Would their renewed partnership withstand the tempest outside, or would they drown in the tides of external pressures? One thought kept returning, louder each time: there was no turning back now. The moment of big decisions loomed ever closer, and Sarah felt on the brink of something monumental. Would this emerging partnership pave the way for resilience, or would it fracture under the pressure they had only just begun to navigate? Unbeknownst to them both, the day they would confront these doubts was closer than they imagined, whispering promises of change and challenge ahead. The first signs of a lingering tension between Sarah and Mark manifested during their next planning session. As they sat together in the kitchen, surrounded by a mess of notes and colorful sticky tabs, Sarah's initial excitement began to ebb. Mark seemed preoccupied, his mind drifting toward his phone. Every buzz disrupted her train of thought, igniting a simmering frustration within her. Was he genuinely invested, or was this just a passing phase? "Mark, can you focus?" The urgency in her voice startled him. "We have to finalize their schedules for next week." He put the phone down, his eyes meeting hers, but the barrier between them felt heavier than before. "I'm trying, Sarah. It's hard to juggle everything right now. You seem to have this all figured out." The sentiment clawed at her. Did he not realize how uncertain she still felt? "I'm not asking you to figure it out alone. We need to do this together." Sarah searched for reassurance in her tone but felt it slip through her fingers. Their collaboration was meant to be a partnership, but she sensed his reluctance lurking in the shadows, an invisible thread pulling him back whenever she reached for him. "Can we put more focus on them?" she pressed, an edge creeping into her voice. "They need not just a nanny, but parents who are present." Mark's jaw tightened at her choice of words. "I'm trying to be present as much as I can. The demands at work are consuming." With her heart pounding in her chest, Sarah felt the pressure to justify her newfound authority. "Maybe we need to reassess our priorities, especially with how the twins are adapting. They seem to respond better with both of us involved, but it requires commitment from you too." As tension coiled, she immediately felt a wave of insecurity wash over her. What if she was overstepping? What if Mark was right, and his work truly took precedence? Doubt lingered in the corners of her mind, but a sense of determination sparked within her. She wanted to be a catalyst for change, not just between herself and the twins, but also with Mark. That night, as Mark settled into their familiar couch routine, Sarah decided to take a more proactive stance. "Let's set some time aside just for the twins, no distractions," she suggested, her voice steadier than she felt. "I want to create a routine that includes both of us, where they can see we are a cohesive unit." Mark's response was delayed. He stared blankly at the television screen as if processing her request. Finally, he sighed, the sound heavy with reluctance. "I'll try. Trying isn't enough, your presence matters." They deserve to see both their parents involved, not just in theory but in practice, she countered. That he met her gaze now, a flicker of something, maybe resentment, maybe recognition crossing his face. "It's not easy for me, Sarah. You don't know the pressures I face." Her resolve solidified as she managed to suppress her frustration. "And I don't expect you to bear it alone. I know you care about them. As Mark offered no further reply, uncertainty loomed in the air. The silence felt cavernous, widening the gap that they both needed to bridge. In that moment, she realized that if they were to lead together, they had to confront their vulnerabilities head-on. In the days that followed, Sarah made small adjustments, dedicating time for discussions about family traditions. By weaving in moments for Mark to contribute, she hoped to demonstrate that his insights would be valued. Their evening interactions shifted. She would approach challenges as learning opportunities, and he surprisingly began to suggest activities and creative ideas. For the first time since she had begun, a hint of optimism flickered between them, yet, beneath this tentative collaboration lay a gnawing question that echoed louder with each passing day: would these efforts yield lasting change, or was she merely delaying an inevitable reckoning? That night, as she lay awake in bed, her heart raced with a new realization. Something had to change both in her approach to Mark and in how she guided the twins. But was she prepared for what lay ahead, particularly if Mark's role continued to lag behind? Little did she know, circumstances were about to unfold, forcing her to confront deeper complexities. The twins were observing more than just the games they played, they were keenly attuned to the dynamics of their parents. Would Sarah's attempts at creating unity be enough? Tomorrow would unravel fresh challenges that would test her resolve, but a more profound revelation lurked just around the corner, ready to reshape their family narrative. The sun poured through the kitchen window, illuminating the scattered remnants of their planning sessions. Sarah stood by the counter, the warmth on her skin grounding her in the moment. Today was crucial. She had decided to prioritize not only quality time with the twins but also to foster deeper engagement from Mark. A familial routine that included both parents was non-negotiable. As she stirred a pot of oatmeal, her mind spiraled through the various strategies she had lined up. Plan A was to schedule family activity time, splitting the chaos of the upcoming week into manageable, dedicated blocks where they could all collaborate on tasks. Plan B involved inviting Mark to lead some of those activities, hoping that stepping into a facilitative role might spark his latent enthusiasm. But doubt crept in again. What if he saw this as an overreach? Sarah replayed their last conversation, grim glances flashed in her memory. Could Mark genuinely step up? The need for partnership felt palpable, yet so fragile. She breathed deeply, focusing on commitment rather than uncertainty. Later that day, as the twins arrived home, she greeted them with a vibrant smile that masked her inner turmoil. "Who's ready to have some fun?" she announced, determination mingling with excitement. Instantly, their faces lit up, and for a moment, all her worries melted away. But when she called Mark to join their game of charades, he hesitated, glancing at his phone. "I'm still working on a few things," he replied, his voice flat. The moment felt like ice water trickling into her chest. "Mark, this is our time together. We talked about being present for them, remember?" She clenched her fists behind her back, unwilling to show just how much his hesitation stung. That he leveled his gaze at her, annoyance creeping into the crease of his brow. "And I care, but I simply can't drop everything. You have to understand that." Each argument felt like a sword, cutting deeper into the foundation she was trying to build. But rather than retreat, she met his frustration with clarity. "Then let us create something that honors both of our commitments. Can we establish 2 nights a week that are for us, no distractions? Let us review work things earlier, and then have genuine family time." In that instant, everything within her began to shift as a burgeoning sense of purpose took root. She wanted to show Mark that their commitment to the twins didn't have to compete with his career, it could complement it. That he seemed caught off guard, his own defensiveness cracking. Maybe that could work, but, he trailed off, lost in thought. This was a breakthrough, however tentative. "Let us just try it. I'm asking you to invest not just your time, but your creativity as well. How will you contribute?" Mark straightened, the light of challenge igniting in his eyes. "All right, I need to think about what role I can play." The air felt charged, her heart began to race anew, sensing a shift. As the twins joined them for the charades, an undercurrent of potential flowed between Sarah and Mark. Once the game ended amidst laughter and scuffled feet, Sarah felt momentum forming. Maybe together they could begin to weave new family narratives without being tethered to their individual baggage. Their next family meeting hung tantalizingly on the horizon, charged with promise and uncertainty. But as Mark turned to face the twins, a flicker passed between them, a tentative forming of a cohesive unit. Yet, as Sarah began to feel a sense of triumph, an unexpected knock on the door shattered the moment. The arrival of an unanticipated guest was set to complicate everything further. She braced herself, knowing instinctively that this might either tear their fragile unity apart or provoke a revelation neither she nor Mark saw coming. What would this encounter reveal about their already tested partnership? The door swung open, revealing an unfamiliar face bathed in the late afternoon light. A young woman stood there, her dark hair neatly pinned back, glasses perched on her nose, and an earnest smile that suggested both confidence and eagerness. "Hi. I'm Emma," she said warmly. "You must be Sarah. I'm here about the nanny position." Every instinct in Sarah's body recoiled at the unexpected intrusion. She had not anticipated the arrival of a stranger today, especially one who might upend the delicate progress she had begun to build with Mark. For a split second, panic surged through her veins, making the air between them thick with tension. Emma continued, her enthusiasm palpable. "I spoke to Mark about helping out with the twins, and he mentioned needing someone who can both engage and support the family dynamic." Sarah's jaw tightened, her stomach twisting as her gaze flickered to Mark for an explanation. Their earlier conversation had been about partnership, about establishing a balance. Was this what he meant by contributing? Did he think outsourcing parenting was the solution? Mark's expression was unreadable, a mask of neutrality that offered no reassurance. "I thought we might need the help," he replied, his ambiguity leaving Sarah more unsettled. "You've been stretched so thin, and I didn't want to see you overwhelmed." The logical part of her brain knew he meant well, still, the dialogue she envisioned at their family meeting felt at risk of unraveling. Emma stood there, shifting her weight from one foot to another, waiting for Sarah to process what felt like a betrayal wrapped in altruism. "I'm not overwhelmed, Mark," Sarah asserted, her voice stronger than she felt. "What I need is collaboration between us, and I need you to step up as a parent, not delegate this responsibility to someone else." Emma glanced between them, sensing the undercurrents, but her demeanor remained calm and professional. "I'm here to support, not replace," she said, her tone measured. "I want to enhance your family time, not take it away." The sincerity in her voice stirred something within Sarah. In that moment, it became clear that this wasn't simply about a nanny. This was a reflection of how Mark perceived their parenting. Was he incapable of stepping into that role she was asking him to fulfill? Did he genuinely believe hiring help would ease the pressure rather than creating deeper bonds? As questions spiraled in her mind, Sarah felt a ripple of resolve. "We're not ready for help from a third party," she said firmly, though hesitation threaded through her words. "We're building something new here. Mark, let us decide what our boundaries are before we bring anyone else into this." The gaze she fixed upon Mark was resolute, demanding clarity about his long-term vision. This wasn't merely a matter of logistics, it was a manifestation of how they navigated their partnership, and it was essential to establish a plan together. Mark's expression shifted as if he was processing that reality for the first time. The initial frustration in his eyes softened, revealing more of his own internal conflict. "You're right, Sarah," he conceded slowly. "I was just trying to find a solution. I didn't mean to step over what we've begun." A weight lifted slightly, yet tension still threaded through the air. This was a pivotal moment where clarity of intent had the potential to either fracture or solidify their future. Emma, the reminder of their struggles, stood patiently waiting, her purpose momentarily sidelined by their revelation. "Let us discuss this tonight," Sarah said, biting back the swirl of emotions. "We really need to be aligned before we do anything." Emma nodded, her smile still intact but now laced with an understanding of the limits they'd drawn. "I completely understand. I appreciate your honesty," she replied. Just let me know if you decide you need support. As she retreated, leaving the door ajar, Sarah turned back to Mark, the air crackling anew with unspoken words. She felt the urgency to communicate the depths of her fears and aspirations this family needed to thrive. On mutual engagement, not layers of detachment. Mark, we're just starting to build trust, Sarah began, inching closer as if to fortify their bond. Please don't become a stranger in our home. The weight of their conversation hung thickly, and Sarah braced for his response, knowing that this moment might mark the unveiling of truths long buried. As they faced each other, the fragile unity they were constructing felt both exhilarating and precarious. The future had opened a door, but the possibilities behind it could either illuminate their path or further obscure it. Which way would they lean? The moment of truth loomed close, and Sarah sensed that the foundation they were working to forge rested on the choices they were about to make. The evening loomed like a vast and uncertain ocean as Sarah prepared for the conversation that could shift the course of their lives. She moved around the kitchen, the dim light casting soft shadows over every surface, each clink of the dishware echoing her mounting anxiety. The day had bled into night, thickening the air with unsaid thoughts and unresolved feelings. Mark was already seated at the dining table, an untouched plate in front of him. His fingers drummed lightly against the wood, a more restless display of emotion masked behind his calm demeanor. He glanced up as she entered, their eyes met, and she caught a glimpse of the conflict brewing within him, a tug of war between wanting to offer help and the realization that doing so might create further distance between them. Can we talk? Sarah said, her voice threading through the tension. There was a simultaneous urgency and softness to her tone, a nuanced reminder of their bond that had endured despite the turmoil. Of course, he replied, shifting in his chair as if the weight of his choices sat heavily on his shoulders. I know we need to address what happened earlier. Taking a deep breath, Sarah settled across from him. It felt like you were undermining what I've been trying to rebuild. I need to know we're partners in this, partners not just as parents, but as caretakers of the emotional landscape of our family. Hiring someone else to nurture our children feels like a step back. Mark's gaze dropped momentarily, his fingers ceasing their restless dance. I never intended to make you feel that way, he murmured. I thought perhaps it could allow us more time together, time to focus on each other again. His reasoning was not wholly misguided, but it felt superficial, a band-aid for a wound that required deeper attention. Time together is important, she acknowledged. But it's not just about our time, it's about being present for the girls and for each other. He lifted his head, meeting her eyes. So, what do we do then? Does this mean we shouldn't hire her? Not at all. Sarah sighed, a mix of frustration and determination coiling in her chest. We need to define our roles clearly before we even think about involving someone else. It's not about delegating but engaging. Engaging how? The question hung in the air, and Sarah realized they hadn't necessitated clarity on their expectations. She could feel that deep-rooted fear bubbling up. Would they ever be on the same page? By acknowledging our strengths and weaknesses as parents. We can't be effective if we don't communicate openly about our needs, she replied, finding her footing despite the uncertainty. Mark searched her face, a deeper understanding dawning as she continued. What I fear is the distance that might come from a solution that deflects our responsibilities instead of uniting us in them. I want us to be honest about not just what we need individually, but what we owe to our girls as a family. For the first time that evening, a flicker of something resembling hope danced in his eyes. What if we come up with a plan, a way to check in on each other regularly? It doesn't have to be overly formal, but enough to keep us aligned and accountable. Sarah felt a knot of tension loosen. The idea held promise, a vibrant thread weaving through the fabric of their worn relationship. I'd like that, Mark. And it might also be worthwhile to discuss how we can split responsibilities. Maybe even create a schedule. Absolutely, he nodded, his enthusiasm growing. That way, we aren't just relying on each other sporadically, we can ensure that we're always working on being present. A subtle shift turned the tide of their conversation. Sarah felt the walls she had erected begin to crumble as their discussion deepened, fortifying their connection. They spent the following hour fleshing out a framework that emphasized partnership, knitting together every concern and desire into a cohesive vision for their family, yet, beneath the surface, doubt still flickered like a shadow. Was this truly the turning point they had both craved, or merely another attempt to avoid the complexities still lurking? The question haunted her. As they sat back, exhausted but slightly buoyed, Sarah realized that this talk was merely the beginning. Tomorrow, she would have to interface with Emma again, a reminder of the very fears they had just begun to confront. How would she navigate that encounter, knowing the stakes had been elevated? As the night deepened, Sarah understood that confronting their family's future was only an initiation. The real work lay ahead. Tomorrow would determine the potential of their commitment. Her heart raced with anticipation and dread as she caught the faintest hint of a smile from Mark, the first flicker of real connection in quite some time. But tomorrow loomed, laden with uncertainty, and as she peered into the darkness, she contemplated whether Emma would bring them together or fracture them further. The choice remained tantalizingly fragile, waiting to shatter or cement a newfound purpose. The morning light spilled over the kitchen counter, illuminating every corner of the room that had once felt so comforting. Now, it buzzed with an electric tension that made Sarah's heart pound in her chest. She stood at the sink, hands submerged in warm, soapy water, but her mind looped incessantly on the upcoming meeting with Emma. It was more than just a conversation, it was a catalyst poised to unleash unknown currents in her family's dynamics. As the clock ticked closer to their rendezvous, the weight of her recent discussions with Mark loomed large. They had carved out a tentative plan, an essential map to bridge their fractured relationship. Yet the moment she envisioned Emma, a covert anxiety surged within her. Would Mark's enthusiasm translate into action, or were they just exchanging empty promises? Taking a moment to breathe, Sarah sought clarity amidst the chaos. This confrontation with Emma wasn't merely about assessing a new nanny, it was about reclaiming her role and asserting her value as a mother. She questioned whether Emma could genuinely enrich their lives or if her presence would unveil insecurities Sarah struggled to hide. After hastily finishing the dishes, Sarah darted upstairs to prepare. Every article of clothing she rummaged through felt laden with symbolism, prompting her to ponder the message she wanted to project. Opting for a simple yet polished outfit, she wanted to embody both authority and softness needed to engage Emma effectively. When the doorbell rang, Sarah's pulse quickened. She opened the door to find Emma standing there, confident, poised, yet somehow listening to the unspoken tension surrounding them. For an instant, Sarah's thoughts churned. Could she embrace this woman as a potential ally? Or was she an intruder looming at the border of her family's safe haven? Sarah, Emma greeted, extending a hand. I'm really excited to meet you and the girls. Thanks for coming, Sarah replied, plastering a smile across her face, though her heart raced. Please, come in. As they settled in the living room, the air thickened with deliberation. Sarah steered the conversation toward Emma's qualifications, finding herself initially impressed, but a prickling sensation lingered at the back of her mind. Each friendly inquiry from Emma felt too polished, too rehearsed. Was this overt professionalism masking a deeper ambition? Sarah's internal assessment was interrupted by the girls' excited chatter as they dashed into the room. Emma knelt to engage them, seemingly in her element. Watching this interaction sparked a flicker of unease within Sarah. Yes, Emma connected instantly with the girls, but could that emotional bond create an even greater distance between Sarah and her own children? Your credentials are impressive, Sarah found herself saying, trying to wrestle control of the narrative. But I'm curious, how do you foster a space where our girls still feel secure, even as they adjust to new faces? Emma's smile faltered slightly. I believe in creating a partnership with parents. It's essential to tailor my approach to support not just the children but the entire family dynamic. A part of Sarah appreciated Emma's perspective, but another part of her recoiled. This wasn't merely a job for Emma, it was her family. For every competently delivered line Emma performed, Sarah sensed an invisible wall rising. Could she trust someone whose very skill set masked potential upheaval? Feeling pregnant silence clouding her thoughts, Sarah decided to confront the unsteadiness that fed her doubts. Emma, I know we all want what's best for the girls, but I want to ensure that your arrival won't push us into the background. It'll be imperative for us to collaborate, actively keeping both our roles front and center. As her words bathed in conviction hung in the air, Emma's demeanor shifted from confident to contemplative. A flicker of acknowledgement passed between them. Sarah's strength met with Emma's professionalism, both formidable yet fragile. Mark joined them moments later and felt the intensifying energy. Outside, the morning sun beamed, casting light on their intentions, yet it was the growing shadows in the room that truly reflected the uncertainty ahead. With their future hanging in the balance, Sarah recognized that she would need to push through her discomfort. These were moments of revelation not just for herself but for her family's collective growth. The stakes were irrevocably high, teetering at the brink of transformation or collapse. As she faced Emma, Sarah felt the knots inside her tighten once more. The encounter posed inevitable questions: who would yield and who would stand firm? Could the life they envisioned coalesce or shatter under pressure? In that charged moment, she understood this was it. The catalyst had awakened. Would she emerge as the driving force in her family's renaissance, or succumb to the very doubts she sought to dispel? The resonance of open-ended possibilities enveloped Sarah as she prepared for a deeper dive into the artistry of balance, partnership, and relentless determination. As the conversation drew to a close, a decisive moment loomed. Sarah's heart surged with a potent mix of fear and hope, aware that her next words could determine the direction of everything. Outside the window, a gust of wind rattled the branches, echoing the whispers of change. And as Mark's gaze met hers, a question remained: how far would they go to protect their family's fragile future? The stakes had never felt higher for Sarah. She stood in the living room, the air thick with the weight of her choices and the echo of Emma's recent visit. The conversation had rattled her, a stark reminder of the precariousness of her position. As days turned into weeks, Sarah understood that this was not just about the twins or Mark. This was ultimately about her own path to growth and self-assurance. During an early morning yoga session, Sarah felt the residual tension in her shoulders release as she focused on her breathing. Clarity emerged within the stillness. She recognized that embracing change demanded more than just hope, it called for action. She had fought hard to claim her place in this family, and she needed to ensure that her role was not diminished by the arrival of an outsider. With newfound determination, Sarah crafted a strategic plan. She scheduled a family meeting that would center on their collective goals, ensuring everyone had a voice and felt invested in the decision-making process. Her role as the orchestrator of harmony transformed, and she felt an infectious energy build as the days approached. She was no longer just a caretaker. She was the architect of their future. Mark seemed oblivious initially but gradually became eager to collaborate as Sarah poured her heart into presenting her ideas. The twins flourished under the routines they forged together, revealing a dynamic she had only dreamt of. Each laughter-filled afternoon, weeks of joint effort culminated in enriching family games and educational projects that expanded their creativity. Sarah found herself immersed, shoving every doubt into a corner to make space for the joy that emerged from their shared experiences. During one particularly rainy weekend, they all huddled together, crafting handmade puppets. As the twins animated their creations and brought them to life, Sarah realized something monumental had shifted. Mark laughed with genuine merriment, and for the first time, their partnership felt visually tangible, a duo of love and care woven from both parents. With Sarah confidently leading the dance, this moment ignited a profound realization within Sarah. Her voice was powerful. She, a woman who once trembled at the threshold of doubt, had established solid confidence not just as a caretaker but as an equal partner in a family that valued her contributions. A few days later, Sarah and Mark's hard work was rewarded during a pivotal meeting with the board at Mark's company. With every aspect of their evolving family life blending seamlessly into their professional roles, Mark presented the new dynamics of their home life that had reflected positively in his productivity. The board members were entranced by the captivating stories Mark shared of their family growing together amid challenges. Sarah watched him from a distance, pride swelled in her chest. He was no longer the distant CEO, instead, he was a dedicated father, fully engaged in their family's life. Their commitment shone through the cracks of their earlier bonds, now forged more resilient than before. In the celebratory aftermath, Mark looked over at Sarah, his gratitude tangible. "I couldn't have done this without you," he said, his voice steady. He finally saw not just her capabilities in managing the twins but her immense potential in thriving alongside him. As weeks morphed into months, Mark, Sarah, and the twins began to redefine family. With each success, Sarah found herself integrating professional skills she had set aside, and the reinforcement of her bond with Mark kept growing stronger. By openly discussing fears and aspirations, they became co-pilots navigating forward, not just for the twins but for the unfolding narrative of their lives. Sarah had conquered her self-doubt, cultivated partnership, and proven that she belonged to this family not only as a nurturing presence but as a crucial team player. The shadows of the past faded, making way for a new identity that felt robust and deserving of the love and respect she had long sought. That I and the closing scene of their family life. When they gleefully decorated the tree for the holidays, Sarah beamed with heartfelt recognition of how far they had come together. Mark hung an ornament, then turned to catch Sarah's eye, pride radiating between them. "You did this," he murmured, his voice full of depth. With laughter echoing around them, Sarah felt the culmination of her transformation, the profound satisfaction of true recognition wrapped in love. Together, she corrected him, her heart swelling with fulfillment. Life had swiftly shifted from chaos to coherence, but the next chapter of their journey awaited, both daunting and beautiful. You need to subscribe now to witness the next chapter of this transformative journey. This is the moment to show your support for emotional narratives that inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these powerful stories alive. Comment below your thoughts and theories about Sarah and Mark's progress, and share instantly with at least 5 friends who you know need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to engage with this community. Your voice matters.